This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring Kyle Segler, the offensive line coach at the University of Louisiana-Monroe. In this podcast, Coach Segler shares his passion for coaching, reflects on change within coaching, and discusses his experience with the AFCA 35 under 35 program. If you like this podcast, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch new episodes each week. Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Segler.
Coach Segler, what's going on, man? How you been?
Oh, been living the good life, man, here in Monroe, Louisiana. Monroe, as it's called to the people who love it here. And, man, we're doing awesome, man. Everything's great.
Absolutely, man. Fun row. I miss it, man. I'm happy that you're back there. This is your second stint there, and you're looking well rested. I want to say congratulations. You got an 8-week-old right now?
Yep. Coming on, 8-week-old little boy. Finally beat the coach's curse. I got two beautiful little girls, a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I was quite content with adding a third girl to the mix. And got surprised by the man upstairs. Had us a little boy, so we're very excited about him, and he's rolling along here. Just gotta get him in some O-line drills once he's old enough to get his balance going, and we'll get him right.
There you go, man. Well, I guess y'all are switching from the man coverage to zone over there, so hopefully everything's going well with you and Mama, man.
Absolutely. Good,
man. Well, hey, I mentioned we had you on the podcast in 20, so about 2 years ago. A lot's changed. I love this profession because it's always changing, man. For you personally, I mean, a lot's changed here in the last couple of weeks as you transition from tight end to O-line coach, and we'll talk about that here towards the end of the podcast. But what I wanted to do was kind of talk about some of the stuff maybe that we didn't talk about on that first podcast and really expand on some of the stuff that we did. And the first thing I'm going to ask you is, when did you know that you wanted to be a ball coach? What was that moment? Who was a part of that? And, how did you get the ball rolling?
Well, I joke with my mom a lot, especially, growing up. I'm a fourth-generation coach. Grandfather, my dad, and then my older brother just recently, the last several years, he's gotten out of the game. But, really growing up as a coach's kid and being in that environment, it's just one of those things. If my mom would have married a lawyer, I'd probably be a lawyer. If she married a doctor, I'd be a doctor, whatever it may be. It's just kind of, that was a family business, and to me, having the mentorship as well as the father relationship with my dad and seeing the impact that he had on his players, my dad coached in college, he coached in high school, and seeing how just all areas of that he maintained. And what I'm striving myself personally currently is he still maintained the old school values of developing kids, loving on them hard, and taking them where they can't take themselves. And, so physically seeing that as you grow with your dad and his players, who are obviously just like my kids, they're all Michael Jordan, they're all Superman, to me as a kid growing up, seeing the transformation that he had on those guys. And, unfortunately, once during that COVID year, my dad passed, and got a lot of solace and help in grieving through that. Was seeing how many of his players are still just as affected by that as we were as a family. And that's something to me again. Verification of what we do as coaches is sometimes only what you see on the paper on Sunday after we play the games.
Absolutely.
But to me, the tangible things of grown men, families, successful people, that they give all the credit to all of those things because of, hey, what your dad did for me. To me, again, that was from an early age, like, man, like what an impactful job. Obviously teachers and coaches are, they're doing the Lord's work, and I mean, impacting these kids in ways that, most people don't truly understand until you've been in those rooms and seen those conversations, good and bad, and obviously having a great example for me, it was something that, I just knew from Jump Street, I wanted to be my future. I wanted to try to have impact on kids and develop them into men. And, for me, especially being a coach's kid, I was very blessed, man. We did move around a ton. I was kind of the not the norm in that regard. So, having the ability to be around these dudes and have my kids be around them and enjoy the same things I did when I was a kid, coming up to the facility, coming to practices and those things, to me, it was something I knew from Jump Street. This is what I was passionate about. This is what I wanted to do.
Yeah, man. I'm happy you kind of, said something important there. As I moved out of the business, there were so many times when I was coaching, I was there at ULM as well as a coach, and our staff was let go. And what a demoralizing feeling You let go. You feel like you let your kids down. I've been at some places where the win and loss record always didn't play in my favor, and that's where I was putting my success at, or my failure at. And when I got out of the business, the most awesome thing is getting a Facebook message from a former player. Getting a text from a guy that's in the coaching now that remembers something I taught him, and it's so much more than that win-loss column, or how many bowl games or playoff appearances. Man, it's what we do is important. So I'm so happy you highlighted that. But I tell you what's funny, what you said is, if I created a montage from all the podcasts that we've had with a coach that comes from a coach, so many of them say, man, I did not want to get in this business. I didn't want to get in this business, and I just couldn't stay away from it. So you kind of knew the whole time that this is what you wanted to do. You never felt like straying away, maybe seeing some of the ugly sides of the business, but you always wanted to be a coach, huh?
Well, to me, it's, and I mean this and not try to sound in any sort of arrogance or anything like that. I could do other things. I've got a master's degree. I'm a good talker.
Yeah.
I'm interested in a lot of different things outside of football. But at the end of the day, to me, like, if this isn't a passion, like, this isn't a job. This is truly a calling and a passion. Because if you don't feel that way, the negative sides of this profession, it'll eat you alive.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that in your heart, that this is really what gets me out of bed every day, is having a chance to be around these dudes and have an impactful part of their life.
Yeah.
Some of the warts of the coaching world, especially nowadays in college football, and how competitive it is, and some of the expectations, it can definitely drive you out of it, and has driven guys out of it, but at the same time, like, this to me is, this is something that to me is, it's just, without sounding corny, it's kind of a higher calling, and I think that, I could go make a lot of money doing something else. I could sell this, sell that, go on lavish vacations, and probably play a lot more golf. But at the same time, like, at the end of the day, like I mentioned with my dad, just having, the time with your players and the impact on those guys' lives, and knowing that you're doing something that is greater, that's going to affect a lot more people than me selling insurance or me selling a car or doing something of that nature. And not to say that there's not value in those jobs and all that stuff. That's great, man. But to me, the interpersonal relationship with the kids, the relationships you have with your fellow coaches, this is the closest thing to me of still playing sports without being, able to play sports anymore. You get to be around the game that you love. You get to be around coaches. We kind of have our team within the team of our staff and our families, and that dynamic, and it's just, there's so many benefits to me personally that you get out of this deal, that, like, the good definitely still outweighs the bad, even when it's bad, and it's just kind of, like I said, you got to lean on those things in the hard times, because don't ever forget, I'm like you said, I've stopped a long time ago starting to measure myself off of wins and losses. Like you said, it's those phone calls, it's getting invited to weddings, it's, guys calling you for advice even when they haven't played for you in 10 years, and it's like that. Those are the things that's like, whoa, maybe I did do what I set up to do with these dudes.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. Now, on the podcast we had a couple years ago, you talked a little bit about your first gig, 2009. You joined the Lon Morris staff. Lon Morris is a school located here in Texas. I think they discontinued their program in like 1945, and so it was like a 60-year drought of no football. You were part of kind of getting that thing back going. In this profession, although programs don't necessarily discontinue, but sometimes they win a national championship like ULM in the 80s, and they're just trying to get back to that dominance. And so much has changed since then. They moved up to FBS level, yada, yada, yada. You were at Marshall. You were at Marshall had tremendous years where you were there as well, and you spent some time at UMass, who's trying to get that program going. What are some of the experiences that you felt at Lon Morris trying to literally get that program back as you kind of cross over into some of these other jobs and try to get those things on the right track and get them going?
Well, the biggest ththing for me was, especially your first job out the gate, just like with anybody. I mean, dude, you talk about making some mistakes and some things that I thought I'll die on this hill from a technique or from a philosophy. And it's like, you go back and you look and you're like, man, you talk about just being an idiot about some stuff, and again, you're on top of the world. It's my first job. I'm an O-line coach, and it's like, holy cow, this is like basically coaching the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
It'll never be better than this. But then, like you said, when it comes to program building, especially in early, stage of my career, you realize how much stuff behind the scenes is influential on the success of a program.
Yeah.
And we can say what we want, and a lot of the places I've been, there's been some really great people involved, great coaches, great humans in administration and support staff. But at the end of the day, you see the places that are currently right now, especially in college football, the success is derived by the almighty dollar, and right. The commitment to the financial side of it is a major part of it. Because so much of this profession, especially nowadays, is kind of keeping up with the Joneses. And if your Joneses got more fatter wallet than my Joneses, sometimes it's hard to keep up, And I think the thing that I go back to that I keep, kind of just as the battle cry is it's still at the end of the day, it's about people. And, I think you find out a lot about, what real coaches are, guys who, again, to me are, maybe not coaching the blue chip top tier guys, but they get a ton out of their players. Their players are, they're productive. They do a good job. And it's like, again, you have to flourish where you're at, and I think you hear that a bunch on these, and it's not lip service. You gotta be the best version of yourself where you're coaching, because again, to me, I think some of the doors and opportunities that have happened for me has been because, I haven't been at, the blue bloods, of the world. I haven't been at a Michigan, a Clemson, those kind of places where it's like, yeah, dude, my wife could coach these guys. They're all 5-star NFL dudes. It's so guys that coach at places and have to do more. Like I said, I'm very, very blessed as far as my come up in this business because, again, whether it was Lon Morris, having the right strength programs and be the strength coach, line fields, wash laundry, do all that above, and then go to Sam Houston. Whenever I was GA in there for Coach Fritz, he from a very early age, us young guys knew there's no job too menial for you, whether it's taking out trash, unloading the equipment truck after games, like there ain't no job that we're too good for, and I think to me that's been very, very beneficial long term because now, when you come to a place, if you have certain amenities and you have certain support staff and you're kind of coaching and recruiting and that's it, it's like, boy, this is a lot of hours in the day, when you don't have those other things associated with it and problems that you may have to deal with at some lesser or lower level programs, not say lesser, but lower level programs.
Yeah.
But it starts, in my opinion, with the people. If you, and again, you see there's a lot of really, really nice facilities across the country and really, well-funded programs that don't have success either, and that's again, comes back to the human element, the people involved in it, and it's just like every good team, every good team has that one group of players that connects and clicks and has that chemistry that kind of, launches that into, the success long term, and it's amazing how it flips. I remember we were joking about it, our OC, Matt Kubik and our receivers coach, John Carr, we were all here together in 2018, and we played Coastal at Coastal and got after them pretty good, won that game, same thing, went to South Isle and got after them dudes pretty good. And to see where those programs have grown in the 5 years since we played them, I mean, they're on a different level now, and so it's just, again, is that facilities, is that NIL, is that coaches, I think to me it's a combination of things, but I still think, after watching those guys and playing against those guys, it's the guys coaching on them other sides, there's some pretty good coaches too.
Yeah, no doubt. That was one of my favorite things about the level is really from an X&O standpoint was the creativity to get a yard. It's 3rd and 1 at a lot of schools when you can look back there and you got a 5-star running back. I run power. It's not that easy when you don't have road graders up front or you're outsized or outmatched. And I feel like I developed as a coach big time at some of the programs I was at just because of that. It was how do you put eye candy on it? How can we utilize motion and stacks and extended splits or whatever. So I've always appreciated that. Now talking about you in your position here, right? You were O-line coach at Lon Morris, then you get an opportunity to be a Sam for an extended period. You're there for about 7 years, and you just get out your comfort zone there, man. You hop in the tight end room, which there's obviously some overlap between protection and blocking and things like that. But all of a sudden, you start talking about route structures, coverages, winning at the top of the route, creating separation. Something that no offense, at that point in time, you had just never done before personally.
None taken.
Yeah, and so. Then all of a sudden, once again, even further, you spend some time as a special teams coordinator there, which, I mean, typically offensive linemen as players, they minus field goal, you're not even touching special teams unless you're on the shield on the block, on the punt team. How did you go in those early years, taking a position that you never really spent any time around? I don't know if as a player, maybe you had an understanding of coverages and what was going on in the back end and stuff like that. And how did you grow both in that role and the special teams role?
Well, I think the biggest thing was like when the transition happened, and I kind of in the tight ends room was when in 2012 when I got brought on full time there at Sam. We were very coastal Carolina-ish. It's the closest kind of representation I can say nowadays in modern college football.
Yeah.
We were gun, pistol, read zone option.
Right.
So the tight ends. We were really the sixth lineman. So I wasn't too heavily involved in pass skill during that era. I was a little more involved in inside run and those kind of things. But I think definitely easing into that part of it from a skill side of things was definitely helped in my transition. But then when Coach Fritz left and went to Georgia Southern and Coach Keeler took over, we went from, I joked all the time, we went from Nevada to Texas Tech, and I mean, with Phil coming in as the OC, I mean, my game as a coach had to grow exponentially. And, the tight ends in Phil's offense, you have to know everything. You got to know, obviously, all run game and protections, but you're going to play in open formations. You're going to have, like you said, you're going to have to run routes in space. And, it's just like anything else. If you're passionate about it and you have the drive to want to be better, it's no different than we expect of our players, right? Like every kid in the offseason, hey, you got to get bigger, faster, stronger, watch more film, dedicate yourself, all the above. So for us to not have that same sort of, expectation for ourselves, is being hypocritical, and again, I did not know any of that stuff, so it was, whether it's online materials, reading books, going and meeting with guys, and, my game, I always talk about that a lot, that time period from 2014 to 2017, when we changed our offensive philosophy. I mean, you talk about growing a ton as a coach, and it made me now in the role that I'm in as an O-line coach, it made it even more, it helps me even more now because of the things that I notice and the things I look at, because you get out of your box, you get out of your comfort zone, and you got to be willing to learn, and I don't have all the answers. I still don't have all the answers, and at the same time, if you're a guy that's a growth mindset, and how you approach things, you'll always have a chance to at least figure out the answers to the test because you're willing to put in the time to study and learn it, and again, alluding to special teams, it's the same deal, now. With Coach Fritz, obviously, it's still continued over at Tulane. The importance and the how paramount special teams and that is for your program and from a culture standpoint. Was very lucky. I took over for Matt Pallage, that's there in Waco with you guys and Baylor. Matt is as good a dude as there is in this profession, as well as he was a juice guy. He's a detail guy, and there's a reason why he's where he's at. It's because he's an outstanding coach and human. But really, for me, it was a great, like I said, the transition from being in the triple option to moving to the air raid, had some time to, grow and learn, obviously having some time under Powell, to kind of see how this was done. And I had still had to put my spin on it, and I still had to put, my flavor and my flair to it. Cause if you're not genuine and you're not honest, the kids they're not going to do it. They're not going to buy in the way that they bought in for us and for me during that time period. And, I think it comes down to anything, man. If you have conviction, you have the proper information, and you have the proper techniques to teach, I think kids, they'll follow you, and I think that's one thing for me, big picture that I always wanted. Obviously, I want to be a coordinator still, I want to call ball plays. That's something that's I'm passionate about. I want to do. Obviously the end game is I want to be a head coach. I think to me, having the personality, being a great communicator, and having somebody that, people can, get behind and rally with as far as working towards a singular goal, which is obviously at the end of the day, what being a head football coach is. To me, that was my excitement about going in the special teams world is, hey, I'm coaching a third of the game. Yep. I'm coaching every single guy on the team except for the quarterbacks, which I don't really want to mess with those dudes anyway. So it's like, hey, this is kind of a unique thing. I'm working with DBs, I'm working with receivers, I'm working with running backs, and, I personally loved it, and that's honestly one of the things I miss about teams is having that interaction with everybody. Yeah. It's not just your position group, and I go over here and we kind of do our own thing, but to me, that was something that was important is if a long-term goal of mine is to be a head coach, well, how has he been as a coordinator up to this point, and we've statistically had some really, really good years on special teams. And again, to me, that is buy-in, that's the kids, that's the whole package, and I just, like I said, it was something to me that was, you got to learn what you don't know. And,
Absolutely.
If you think, not being stagnant, and growing and doing new things and trying new things. Cause at the same time, I mean, hey, I didn't know no better. So let's try something new, and if it don't work, then, hey man, you got a 300-pound lineman out here coaching special teams. What do you think was going to happen? So
yeah.
But luckily for me, we had a lot of success and had a lot of really good players during my time at Sam and here at ULM and Marshall and all those places that I was heavily involved with special teams.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it definitely makes it more fun. Keeps you. That game is you're live wired from tip to finish when you're involved in special teams. There's no taking a break.
No, Coach, thanks for sharing that. And that's been something I've done on the podcast here for a while. Anytime I get guys that, I'm a running back guy by trade, play coach receiver. I'm a receivers coach, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me. The easy thing would have been to be a running backs coach. I don't think I ever would have grown as much as I did, and so I always like to highlight that and just see how coaches approach that growing stage. And you've done phenomenal. ULM net kickoff and punt returns average that ranked in the top 20 nationally. At Marshall 2020, the team ranked number 6 in the nation in kick return defense. It kind of got a long list here, so I don't want to sit here and read, but you've done a phenomenal job with it for what you say, 300-pound O-line guy.
Yeah.
Huh? You've done pretty well with it. So, anyways, kind of moving forward, I'm going to run through this real quick. You were 18, you were tight ends, special teams coordinator at ULM, 1920, Marshall, tight end special teams coordinator. UMass in 21, you were tight ends coach. Now you're back at ULM as of 2022, where you were the tight ends coach this past season. You're transitioning into O-line coach. 3 G5 programs. We'll kind of get into detail about your role there currently and stuff like that. But I want to talk a little bit about that G5 level. You just made mention, basically not having the blue chips and just some of the differences of playing that level. And I always thought it was special. For the reasons I said earlier, you got to be creative. But I always thought it was unique because there was such a drastic difference between, I don't want to say the last G5 program, but, that kind of lowest budget, the lowest kind of location, lowest tier versus a Boise State, the Cincinnatis that are heading into the Big 12 now. It was such a drastic difference. But you still had to play that G5 schedule. You still had to play if you're ULM, from my experience, and I'm sure yours, you had to play 3, sometimes 4 money type games. What has been your experience and just the uniqueness and the special of that G5 level of Division I football?
Well, I think to me, it's in my humble opinion, currently where we sit in 2023 right now, college football G5 level. I think the hardest thing right now, and again, I've got some close friends that are at Power 5 schools, and they're dealing with some things that we're dealing with. But the hardest thing right now, in my opinion, is everything, and it's not just in football. It's currently in our society as well. A lot of things are transactional.
Yeah. And
it is about what can you do for me right now. It's about NIL. It's about money. It's about amenities. It's about down the list, right? Yeah. And, for me personally, I got into this profession, as I alluded to earlier, because of I wanted to be transformational.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have relationships. I want to coach the same room of dudes from the time I recruited them to the time they graduate, be somewhere long term. I think that's the hardest thing right now for me is we're not playing the same game we played 5 years ago. Okay. The NIL, the transfer portal, we are playing a whole nother ball game into the Wild West. But the expectations at places that you're mentioning are still, hey, we better win in 3 years or we're going to get these guys out of here because they're obviously idiots and they don't know how to coach and we'll find somebody else to do it, And to me, it's, I think it's coming down to now is, okay, like if you're giving me all the tools in my tool belt to be successful, facilities, training table, NIL, all the above, and we screw it up, get rid of us, man. Get us out of here and find somebody who can come in here and get it done, But you got to, as you said, you kind of have to be creative in your approach to who you recruit. I think that's a big thing for us in these places is you got to find guys that are about the right things, that are about the more old school qualities of, great parents that, hey, this is about not what the logo on your shirt is. It's about the people you're with every day. This is about the quality of education. This is about the town and the location, and I think to me, I joke about it a lot. Monroe's a blue collar, gritty place, and that's one of the reasons I love it. And the guys that we have in our program that are those kind of dudes, they flourish here. They have success. They're happy. And they play really good football. You get a kid from a little bit higher end background, and they come from the country club. And this is not the fit for them. So you have to navigate and be a lot more peel the onion back more layers as far as in the recruiting process and the development process because you got to find kids that are your profile. And it's just not pull up the 24/7 rankings and find the best guys and just click on them and reach out and be like, hey man, come over here. you have to really turn over some stones. You got to still have really good relationships with your area people as far as your high school coaches, because again, you got to still find some of those diamonds that you might not know. And again, unfortunately, at a place like I'm currently coaching and I've been the last few years, some of them diamonds, somebody's going to come steal that diamond from you, and I think that's, like I was joking with, our former line coach at Marshall, Greg Atkins, he's in South Carolina, and our O-line in 2020, if they were currently playing for us at this moment, they would not be the same 5 dudes out there. They would have been all handpicked and gone here, gone there. And, like I said, it's just the nature of it, but at the same time, being in these, being in the G5, I think it's, you gotta have, the right, mind frame about it with your kids. How cool is it to go play at Alabama last year and go to UT and play UT? Now again, from a DNA standpoint, they've got a pretty substantial advantage on us, but from a experience, which is, again, what is college football about? 95% of these dudes aren't going to play in the NFL. They're coming here to get a degree, play college football, and have unbelievable memories and experience. So I don't know about you guys, but running out in Tuscaloosa and seeing Nick across the sideline from you, that's pretty cool. Whether you're a player, a coach, whatever, So to me, it's, it's a necessary evil, but at the same time, I think it's something that, you got to, it's all about your perspective towards it, and I think for us, for our guys who are those upper tier players on your roster, and again, we have some that are guys that have a chance to play at the next level. Now you're getting a body of work against really, really good G5 opponents. In my opinion, I think the Sun Belt's the best G5 league in the country. So you're week to week going to play some of the best competition in the country. And then you throw in a couple flair wow games of, oh, hey, wow, here's this guy blocking Will Anderson in Alabama. Here's this guy doing this against Texas. Insert blue blood school's name here, and I think that's something that, for your next level guys, I think that's a positive benefit, because now you're giving them a body of work that NFL scouts can see and be like, okay, he did this against the best of the best, and here his consistent week to week performance in his conference, and kind of gives those guys a chance to actually, have a real opportunity at the next level.
Absolutely, man. Well, you said something that really sparked my interest there as you were talking. I got out in 2017, and you talk about what's changed probably since the last time you were just at ULM in regards to what the NCAA rules are and things like that. And so this doesn't have to necessarily, be about ULM or, any of the places that you've been, but just being a coach right now in the constant changing game. For the decade I was in, the biggest thing that changed was you could text recruits. That was it. That was all that changed. Everything else was just the same. So with this ever-changing schedule and rules that's kind of going on in this time period, how do you, just as a coach in general, just keep up with what's going on? I'm sure, nothing is perfect with what's going on right now. We all know that. But you better embrace it. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. So, how have you managed that just from a personal standpoint and growth standpoint?
Well, I think the big thing is you have to take everything with a grain of salt and kind of step back and always kind of see the 360 view of stuff, and I think, for us, especially at this level, the thing that is kind of getting some of your older coaches in the profession, the old gray-haired, grizzled guys who've been doing this for 30 years, is the routine and what the expectations are and how we operate. Yeah. Like, they know how we've operated for the majority of their career. And those guys are the ones that I find personally are the ones that are kind of really struggling with these transitions. They're the ones that are like, well, why are we doing that? And then we can't survive if we do this. Like, whoa. Like, hey man, like you still have to spin it your way. You still have to find your niche as far as, hey, what can we do different than other people? And right. Again, like we talk about a lot here, like this place is it's sportsman's paradise. If you're a hunt, fish, be outside guy, there's no place better in the country than to be here. We got kids that, they're playing golf. They got a line in the water. We got a bayou running through campus. It's like you got to find the things that are unique with you to have success and keep your players there. And we don't run from it. Who am I to sit here and judge if I've got a kid that we've developed and he's becoming a big time player and somebody is going to give him an opportunity to go play someplace and take care of himself and his family financially long term? Like, who am I to tell him, no, you can't do that? You're betraying. Like, whoa. Like, no, man. Like, if you're about the kids, you're about the kids, and to me, I kind of take it the other approach. As much as that pains you and you're concerned about your roster and managing and your room and these guys are going to be in this place for this period of time, hey man, that's another opportunity to go find another kid. That's another opportunity to go impact another young man, and again, if you have the rapport and relationship with your players, you may not stop them from leaving, but boy, I tell you what, you're going to be involved in that process. You're going to at least be in the loop. You're not going to be caught out in the dark like, well, I didn't expect this. It's like, yeah, if you are about relationships, and you have to, I think now more than ever, the fake relationship guys that just coach the dudes, what happens in between the white lines, and then they go about their business, those are the guys that are going to have trouble staying in this profession now, because if you don't have a relationship, if you don't have that emotional tie to these dudes where it's like, man, I don't want to let coach down, I want to be here because of coach, you're going to struggle to have long-term success, because it's just, unless you're at a place that's got unlimited amenities and they've got a big-time NIL deal, it's just kind of like, hey, man, it's going to be hard to keep guys where you're at, and I think that's something that now you just got to navigate and do your best with, because that has become a huge part of it.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that, Coach. Before I let you go here, I just want to hit on two things. You recently transitioned over to the offensive line. I know you're not smiling on the screen right now, but I know you're smiling ear to ear on the inside. I know that's as a former O-line guy, that's huge. And I know you spent the year at Lon Morris, where you guys actually didn't play a season at that time. Did a little bit there at Sam Houston as you were assisting. You're still coaching tight ends though. It's kind of really the first probably true time, I guess, as you look at it. You're going to have a season. You're the guy.
Yep.
You're not coaching tight ends or anything else. How does that feel, and how have you grown as offensive line coach over this past decade or so?
Well, I always talk about this in kind of two ways. First thing is, I've been preparing for this for the last 13 years of coaching, and I've had opportunities that have come up on short. Again, to me, like, the two most important positions that you have on a staff are your O-line coach and your DB coach. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants Jim McNally. They want some old grizzled, O-line guy's been coached for 40 years and has forgotten more football than I know. And again, this profession is all about timing, and I mean, for whatever reason, this is the timing of when I've gotten this opportunity. But again, prior to getting this opportunity, I have, again, in the off season, not only had to study my own position, special teams, tight ends, grow, advance with the times, and progress myself in my knowledge base of what I currently coach, but obviously the side hustle and the work when nobody sees is still learning, still meeting with guys and talking about offensive line play and growing myself there, to where when I did get that opportunity, I was going to be able to take it and run with it, and I think, to me, you're losing in current college football with the environment that is now created with the portal and with everything. The grit involved and the mental focus that is involved with working through something that isn't exactly what you want it to be. Right. And nowadays, if it's not perfect, it's not what kids expected or what they want, what are we teaching them? Bail. Get out of it. Just leave. Move on. It's better just to pick up and split. Right? Whereas whenever I was growing up, with my dad being a coach, and especially me being a very below average player, especially, hey man, you got to grind. You got to work through this, and although this isn't the role you want, this isn't the hat that you're wearing at the time that you want to be wearing long term and be known for, eventually you're going to get that opportunity if you put your head down and you just work, and I think for me, I think the guys in the room now, they feel the passion that I have for it, because again, I mean, I won the lottery, to me, this is something, again, we got kids nowadays, they can't do something they don't like for 48 hours. Try doing a job for 13 years and not coaching the position you're the most passionate about. Yeah. I mean, that's something that's kind of sobering. It's kind of like, oh man, like you don't think about it like that. And not to say that I didn't enjoy my time coaching tight ends, being a special for all that stuff. Again, total unbelievable memories. I'm so blessed to the path that has gotten me to today. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, that has also driven me to now have an added edge. It has a chip on my shoulder, just like I did as a below average player. And I was like, hey man, like, all these guys that they passed, and again, like I'm doing it for my guys in the room, but it's also to show, like, boy, what a mistake you made, and I think that's really driven me personally to continue to grow. And again, I think just like anything, your passion and your enthusiasm is either fake or it's real, and it affects people around you, and I think our room, I'm very blessed. The two guys I got working with me, Dylan Day, former SEC standout player, local guy from West Monroe. He's our analyst. He won a Super Bowl with the Broncos. And then Chase Hagler is my new O-line GA, was a student assistant at App. Those two dudes are outstanding. And I think we got a great fit in our room. And our guys just, again, I think we're going to take this thing hopefully to the next level. And again, we'll find out if be careful what you wish for, man. First ball game is Army here in Monroe. And then we get to play play Ole Miss and Texas A&M and the boys. So we'll see how good they like me after this one's over with.
I got you, man. Well, I can't wait to watch the Hogs up front for the Warhawks this upcoming season, man. Super excited about you, man. And as always, I appreciate everything that you do. Before I let you go, though, I want to highlight you're part of our 2019 35 under 35 class. I know that was something special for you. Not just because I looked and saw it. You told me it was a really good opportunity for you. Just from your perspective, what did you get out of 35 under 35, and why is that something everybody should take a part of or attempt to take a part of?
For me, I think the biggest thing is I got kind of talked about at the beginning of this. Coaching being a passion, coaching being feel like a calling for me. I know there's a lot of guys who echo that sentiment. If it is that way for you and you are passionate about it, we are the carriers of the flame. Our generation of coaches, we have to take the game forward. And again, you hear a lot of coaches talk about whether it's NIL, concussions, whatever, all the negative things associated with football. There has to be people who are willing to be in the front lines and push the game forward. And I think, to me, that's like the big picture for me for the 35 under 35 is, hey man, like our expectation is, this is not about, us. This is about the game. This is about the people associated with the game and moving this forward. I think on another sub-level from that, this game is so much still, and it's just like anything else. It's about relationships, and the guys in my class that I've gotten close with and I still have great relationships with. Every class since then, I always badger you about coming back and talking to the next year's class because I am so excited and I am so passionate about it. And I think, to me, it's a very holistic and comfortable networking opportunity for guys. It's not just, you learn a ton of stuff in the meetings and it's all been great, but at the same time, it's the relationships with guys. I mean, some of the guys I'm the closest with were high school coaches that were in mine, D3 guys that were in mine. So this isn't like, hey, I'm just going to the blue chip guys with the cool logos on their shirt talking to them dudes. It's some of the relationships have been the most genuine with the guys that are, guys that are just out there, love ball and are good people, and I think, to me, it's, the learning and the growth as a coach is so vital, and also having different guys with different backgrounds and different perspectives. That's what's so unique about it is the pool of people every year you see and how different the backgrounds are is what makes it so special. And I think it's something that, again, it's a, unique brotherhood, and I'm very proud to be an alumnus. Again, to me, I see some of the guys that are in my class that are doing unbelievable things and continuing to grow in this profession. And it's so cool because it's so easy in this profession to just look at yourself and root against others having success. And to me, that the big thing that's written on my mirror at my house is comparison is the greatest thief of joy. And to me, seeing guys that have success that I was in my class with, I'm as excited for them as if it happened to me. And it's like, hey man, like, hey, congrats on the new gig. So happy for you. What a great deal. And it's like also on the other side of that coin, hey man, I know y'all got let go. Please let me know if I can do something. Let's call if you need to talk, kind of thing. And so having a support system that's genuine and honest, and those guys that were in that group, I think is really been cool for me. And like I said, it's one of the best things I think about every year going to the convention. Like I said, seeing those guys and coming to the evening deal to see all the former guys coming back too. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, Coach. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, man. Before I let you go here, if you don't mind, putting your Twitter account out so coaches can follow you, keep up with your journey.
Yes, so at Coach_Segler, that is Segler. And like I said, very appreciative of having the opportunity to come on. And like I said, man, always repping the gold standard everywhere we go and trying to keep pushing this thing forward, man.
Keep on pushing, Coach. I'm definitely rooting for you. I look forward to seeing you in Nashville in 24, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset. If you heard anything on this episode that you would like to learn more information about, head over to afcapodcast.com where you can find every episode and all of the corresponding show notes. While you're there, take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please let us know by sending an email to podcast@afca.com. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Inside the Headset and tag it when you share each episode. You can stay up to date with all things AFCA by following the @WeAreAFCA Twitter account. Every episode of Inside the Headset can also be found on your favorite audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you are not currently a member of the AFCA, Be sure to find us online at AFCA.com and apply to join over 10,000 NFL, college, and high school coaches from around the country who are striving to be the best they can be. With an AFCA membership, you gain invaluable access to the annual AFCA convention, the bi-monthly magazine, and the new and improved digital library, which contains thousands of videos and articles contributed by hundreds of current and former football coaches. You can also visit AFCAinsider.com to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter on the right-hand side of the screen. It comes out every Tuesday at lunch and is filled with great articles and stories written by many of the same coaches you hear on the podcast. It's geared to help you become a better coach tomorrow than you are today. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter at Coach Mario Price, and remember, the AFCA is not just an annual convention. It is an association that continually promotes education, guidance, and networking. But it is also so much more than that. The AFCA is about celebrating the past and educating the future. It is about developing great coaches who will produce great teams and even better people. So invest in your skill set and impact today by engaging with the AFCA.